Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dychronic, host on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the best new weapons to get in Season of the Splicer. And obviously I have not received all of the new weapons yet, of the 45 new weapons we have in this season, but I have scoured over every single one of the new weapons, the new perk options, the new stat distribution, the new options, the adept, the time loss, all of the new stuff, and I have taken a look and picked my favorite. And obviously this is going to be my favorite, my playstyle, what I like to do. You're going to have a different list, and I know for a fact there's going to be a lot of salt in the comments because there's certain weapons that I do not like that I know other people do. But hopefully you'll understand my objective reasoning to why I like it. Because in the end, what this video is supposed to do is give you a frame of reference of what you're going to want to grind. And if you agree with what I'm saying and you like the ideas of what I'm saying, go grind it. If you don't worry about it. And of course, there are cute animals on screen right now. Why? Because I wanted to say thank you for watching this part of the video. I imagine there's a lot of people that either hit L on their keyboard a bunch or right arrow, so I just wanted to say thank you. Moving on, let's go ahead and get started. The first weapon on the list today is going to be the Vex Mythoclast, a Destiny 1 returning favorite from the Vault of Glass boss encounter. And this one is a very, very unique weapon. First of all, technically considered a fusion rifle, used to act more like an auto rifle back in Destiny 1. Now in Destiny 2 is more like a sidearm scout rifle because it's not fully automatic, with a 25 magazine, 360 rounds per minute, 100 aim assistance, 80 recoil pattern, and also an extra damage alternate fire mode that actually sounds really, really fun. On top of that, it has a catalyst, which hopefully is going to release this season. There's a lot to like about this weapon. I do think it's going to be a bit stronger in PvP relative to PvE, but I think it's going to be a very fun weapon no matter what you're doing. Up next, we have the other exotic weapon, the Cryosthesia. If you've been playing the Crucible, I'm sure you've been frozen by this quite a few times. Considering it comes to the Season Pass pretty much right off the bat for the premium users, a lot of people have their hands on this weapon. And once you get a kill with this weapon, the only stasis primary in the game, it allows you to instantly freeze targets with this charged shot. Now, a lot of people initially thought this was going to be a very powerful weapon, however, it seems more like a very specific playstyle. Considering it has a bit of an odd bounce to it, a lot of people may find it a bit clunky, it may not be your style. But then again, you can instantly freeze targets. And in PvE, I don't find much use for it. Up next, let's talk about the 3 new legendary class-specific swords. And honestly, I've been waiting for these swords to return for a long time. I've been missing new archetypes in swords. If you did not know, Crown Splitter is aggressive frame. It swings much wider, much slower, with a big slam attack. The QUICKFANG is a lightweight sword. You run faster with it. The attacks are much quicker and much faster between the combos. And then obviously Eternity's Edge is technically the only solar vortex frame in the game. There are a lot of very unique things about these. I wish they would have more of these types of swords. Now when it comes to the different swords, I think that the Titan one is probably the best. First of all, the only one that can have Relentless Whirlwind on it, and also had the best DPS back in the Menagerie days, and I imagine that has not changed. And if you wanted to get any of these swords, all you have to do is just get a world drop or a vendor engram while on that particular class. I got my first one from Gunsmith. You could probably get one pretty easily. Unfortunately, it was a Crown Splitter with Relentless Whirlwind. I was very excited. Up next, we have the Ignition Code, a legendary kinetic grenade launcher, of which there are literally no other ones that haven't been sunset. And honestly, I've been waiting for this for quite some time. I've been missing Mountaintop, but unfortunately, this one does not have autoloading. But fortunately, it has literally everything else you'd want it to have. It has field prep, slide shot, surplus, ambitious assassin, lead from gold, danger zone, vorpal, demolitionist, frenzy, even one for all you could possibly use. There's a lot of really great options with this, and you should keep in mind that kinetic weapons technically do more damage to non-shielded targets. So I technically prefer having my special on the kinetic option, if there are options, of which there really aren't enough. Up next, we have the FATEBRINGER, not only a Destiny 1 favorite weapons with the current FATEBRINGER perks with explosive payload and Firefly, but also probably one of the best, if not the best, new weapon of the season. Now, if you don't know, this is a kinetic 140 hand cannon, which seems, as far as the stats go, leans more into the less magazine, more range archetype, which is pretty much a copy and paste of the palindrome stats with some slight differences. Which should tell you is really, really good. Nearly 100 recoil pattern, 84 aim assistance, 51 range, and honestly one of the best perk options in the game. From what I remember, it is the only weapon in the entire game that can have explosive payload plus a major damage perk like Kill Clip or Frenzy. And if you don't know, If you haven't seen my video, explosive payload increases your damage for body shot and headshot damage on top of reducing your damage falloff. So having a damage perk plus another damage perk is really strong. Although a lot of people might lean more into having Firefly for the memory's sake. And on top of that, it also has PvP options with opening shot, it has kill clip and frenzy, has tunnel vision, it has the killing wind. A lot of really great options on this weapon. I do think it's going to be the best of the season. And this one drops obviously from Vault of Glass. And it also has a time loss version. I don't know what that means. I imagine it's something similar to Adapt. Or maybe it's something specific to Vault of Glass only. I don't know. Up next we have the Hung Jury, which is a legendary kinetic scout rifle, 180 RPM precision frame, and it drops from the Nightfall Unique, which also means that it has an Adept version. And if you've been playing for the last few seasons, you know the artifact almost always has something about scout rifles. Whether it's barrier rounds, or if it's overload rounds, or something or another, it always has something scout rifle. So in essence, you're always going to need a good scout rifle, and the Hung Jury is going to be an excellent kinetic option. First of all, for the highest level play, you'll always need to be staying far away from the target, and the 180s offer a lot more range than the 200s without ruining the fire rate by too much. So if you don't really like the Night Watch, which I think Night Watch is still an excellent option, especially with explosive payload, Hung Jury can give you a little bit more range. Up next, we have the No Composure, a legendary Void fusion rifle, and is the current ritual weapon. If you want to go get this thing, just go over to Banshee the Gunsmith, and he'll start you on this quest. And there are a lot of really great stuff about this weapon. First of all, it's a rapid fire frame fusion rifles, which currently have the best DPS of all the legendary fusion rifles. And it also has Reservoir Burst, which is a very fun and unique perk that allows you to explode targets after you shoot them. I would say the main downside of this weapon is it doesn't have auto-loading like Loaded Question does, which is a very good combination with Reservoir Burst and just overall amazing perk. Up next, we have the Empty Vessel, a legendary energy special ammo grenade launcher, which if you like the Truth Teller or Wings Maul, this is going to be your solar version. And yes, it can have auto-loading, as well as a lot of other perks. Obviously, a very diluted pool on it, but if you do end up getting a great roll, especially if you get auto-loading on it with spike grenades, you're going to be sitting pretty, and it's definitely a great option, and a good solar option in case if you need solar. And it's also pretty easy to get from any of the Vanguard, which again, by the way, big diluted pool, but you'll get a lot of them. Up next after that, we have the Vision of Confluence. It's another 180 RPM, however, energy scout rifle. And for a lot of the same reason as the Hung Jury, you often need a good scout rifle because of the artifact mod, because of the highest level play. And this one actually has a lot better perks, a lot of really great stuff, including Firefly, Kill Clip, Frenzy, Full Auto, Surplus, Wellspring, Tunnel Visions, Killing Winds, and there's so many great perks on this. And if you're going to be playing a lot of VOG, you're going to get a lot of Vision of Confluence. Following that, we also have another Vault of Glass weapon, the Found Verdict, which is an aggressive frame arc weapon, which honestly could be a better option than First and Last Out, depending on what you're doing. Very similar DPS as the Slug shotguns, however, obviously a lot easier to use, because you don't have to go for those headshots, which obviously shotguns generally don't have a lot of headshot multiplier. And it also has a lot of great perks on it, including auto-loading, full auto trigger system for faster fire rate, Surplus, Frenzy, Vorpal, opening shot, 1-2 punch, demolition. There's a lot of really great perks. Again, pretty much hit it out of the park with a lot of these Vault of Glass weapons. Following that, we have the Vision, which is a legendary arc damage sidearm, which is a 3-burst adaptive frame. And honestly, every time we see a 3-burst or a 2-burst, I always tell people this is good stuff. And on top of that, I also usually tell people none of the other sidearm archetypes are really worth much. Now, I have actually pretty good reasons for this. First of all, this is the highest DPS sidearm of the bunch, 491 rounds per minute. Usually the faster fire rates do better DPS. On top of that, it's actually not that hard to control. As a controller user, a burst weapon like this usually is harder to control, especially at range, and that's not actually the case. And obviously the biggest reason is the fact that it actually has much higher kills per clip. It has around 9 bursts of 3 shots, whereas the other sidearms usually get around 1 to 2 kills per clip. This usually gets around 2 to 5 before you need to reload, which is really big. A big problem that a lot of the SMGs usually have, this weapon does by itself. So if you don't have a good arc 3-burst sidearm, of which they're always 3-burst arc, this is a good option. And this one drops from World Drops, Vendor Engrams, and the FWC Engram from the Prismatic Recaster. Up next, we have the Occluded Finality, a legendary energy arc damage sniper from the 72 RPM aggressive frames that drops from Iron Banner. And honestly, this is going to be one of those just replacements or alternatives to Frozen Orbit. Very similar stats, a slightly different scope, and obviously a much less diluted loot pool. So if you're having trouble getting your snapshot opening shot on Frozen Orbit, you have a different option if you have a lot of Iron Banner tokens. And finally, the last weapon on this list, we have the HEZEN Vengeance, which is a legendary aggressive frame rocket launcher. Which aggressive frames are generally known for their RPM and their velocity and their reload, but not a lot for their blast radius or their handling. However, technically on this rocket launcher, you can have impact casing, auto-loading, and lasting impressions, which lasting impressions gives you plus 50 blast radius, maxing out your blast radius pretty much all the time. So you have an aggressive frame with all the benefits of being an aggressive frame with maximum blast radius. In essence, this is an alternative to Heretic if you don't want to play the moon stuff and you do like playing Vault of Glass. This is going to be a great option for rockets. Just across the board, rockets are still doing really well. If you haven't seen my top 10 PvE heavies video, rockets were doing incredibly well. Even the second highest DPS in the entire game of Truth, not a sword, and a lot of other rockets sprinkled up there in the top 10. And I think that HEZEN Vengeance is going to be an excellent option, especially considering it does solar damage, and we don't have that many solar damage, I think. Wait. Oh, Code Duello. Yeah, never mind. And that is pretty much the end of the video. Obviously, there's a ton of weapons that you guys probably like that I didn't have in my list, and if you do like it, let me know in the comments down below, let me know why, and check out the comments if you want some more recommendations. But obviously, I did have to pick my favorite. And a lot of these weapons, I actually really just did not like. The 720 auto, the 540 pulse rifle. A lot of people telling me that they're amazing, but I didn't like them. And as a controller user, it could be obviously skewed because they have much higher recoil. And of course, as always, a big thank you to my patrons on Patreon for making videos and my spreadsheets possible. Specifically, I want to give a big thank you to Matty Buju, Mom, Dad, Charles Williams, Dr. Strange, Joe Smith, Mighty Now Hopkins, Steve Bachowicz, Justin Ray, Raymond Chomlin, Your Panther, Cole Sherm, Casey Reagan, and Badgie for their support on Patreon. And that is going to be the end of it. My name is Dychronic, and I'll see you guys on the next one.